minute over the Gulf of Finland, the government said Italy, Finland, and Sweden escaped jet on the NATO mission to blast its eastern flank. A NATO spokesperson said it was yet another example of reckless Russian behavior and NATO's ability to respond. Russian demand polluting Estonia airspace, but tensions have been escalating recently after Poland and Romania, both NATO members, said Russian drone breached their airspace. Article 4 of the NATO Treaty, a formal origin consultation with the 22 member alliance would tie the US and many European nations together on collective defense. It is the second time this month that a NATO member has requested Article 4 consultation. Poland did not so on 10th September of Russian drones entered its airspace. Estonia Prime Minister Christian Michael said NATO responds to any provocation but be until and strong. We consider it essential to consult with our ally to share situation awareness and to agree on our next joint step, Michael said. US President Donald Trump said on Friday, I didn't love it. I don't like when they happen could be my trouble. Estonia, which shares a border with Russia to the east, said there was the fifth Russian violation of its airspace this year. Officials said the Russian aircraft entered its airspace from the northeast and were intercepted by Finnish jet over the Gulf of Finland. Once inside Estonia airspace, Italian F-35 jet based in Estonia were delayed under NATO Baltic Air Police mission to screw the aircraft out. The government said this Russian jet has no flight plan as their transports turned off and also did not have too many radio communication with Estonia air traffic control. Russian Defense Ministry said the jet were on a scheduled flight in strict compliance with international airspace regulation and did not violate the border of other states as confirmed by objecting monitoring. It said they flew over natural plastic water more than 3 kilometers 2 miles over Valdlo Iceland, which belonged to Estonia. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2024. President Trump has been leading effort to end the conflict, most recently by inviting his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to Alaska for a summit. But Putin force has a rapidly rejected call for a ceasefire. They have intensified air attack and have been making slow progress on the ground. Despite a very high combat consultation report, Michael said the Russian incursion show its war of aggression in Ukraine was not proceeding as the Kremlin had planned. The aim is to draw attention and assistance away from Ukraine by forcing NATO countries to focus more on the defense of their own territories. He added, Friday incursion was not isolated incident, even if it was considered the most serious violation of Estonian airspace so far. Speaking to the BBC on Saturday morning, Estonia Foreign Minister Margus Tisakna said it was part of a pattern of Russian behavior. He used to analogy of the boiling frog to explain Russian strategy. The suggestion is that very gradually ramping up provocation, none of which on their own word necessitate a military response. Russia is able to test and ultimately undermine NATO defense. That is why they are called, including from former UK Defense Secretary Servin Valens, for the alliance to take a much shorter line up with the Kremlin. He agreed Russia need to be present with the strategic dilemma, a response that would demonstrate it propagate come with a cost. The question is, what would that been in 2015 as most brief violation of airspace over Turkey on the NATO member in within the shutting down of a Russian jet and the eventual death of the pilot that result in diplomatic and economic consequence, but not all out war, and no similar incursion has been reported sign. Would the scam be true if the MIGS has been shut down this time? It's impossible to be say with any certainty. One vital added complementation would be the response of Donald Trump. As ever with this precedent, it is a full game of make from prediction, but it is very possible he would view the shooting down of Russian plane, even in NATO airspace, as a significant and unnecessary escalation, and once he would opposed. When under conflict to result, uh, it is entirely considered he would view Europe as being significantly responsible as, and so many refuse to offer vital US support. That would have a recurrent, wicked, and single incident calling into question NATO must vaunted Article 5, which said that an armed attack against one or more member will be considered an attack against all. That would be a nightmare scenario for Europe and dream of one the Karelia. All in all, it has created an environment of extreme strategy uncertainty for European power ones. They are still trying to decide to how to respond to. Last week, Poland ministry said it had shot down at last 3 Russian drones, which Prime Minister Donald Trump and Tusk saying 19 drones were recorded entering Polish airspace. Russian insisted the incident was not deliberate, and its defense ministry said there had been no plans to target facilitated on Polish soil. Belarus, a close Russian ally, said the drone entered Russian policy airspace incidentally after their navigation system were jumped.
Several days later, Romanian defense minister said he had detected a Russian drone with two F-16 were monitoring the country border with Ukraine after Russian air attack on Ukrainian infrastructure on the Donetsk. And the ministry said the drone later disappeared from the radar. Russian has not commented on the issue. In response to Russian incursion in Poland and Romania, NATO planned to move trap and fighter jet storage. Planned from plane from the UK, France, Germany, and Denmark, all taking part of air defense mission over Poland in a bid to forestall the Allies' eastern flank. Back. What is NATO and what do Article 4 and 5 cover? Poland Minister Donald Tusk has said Polish and another NATO aircraft shot down a number of Russian drones which violated the country's space during a strike on neighboring Western Ukraine on the night of 19 September. While Ukraine is not a NATO member, Poland is, and Tusk asked the ally to investigation whatever the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of a member country have been threatened. 10 on 10 on 19 September, Estonia requested a consultation with other NATO members after three Russian Mi-31 flight jets violated its aircraft. Russian later denied any violation by the jets, saying they had flown over neutral ballistic water. At the NATO summit in June, the ally 32-member restaurant there. Iran said commit to collective defense known as Article 5 and agreed to blast defense spending after a month of pressure from US President Donald Trump. NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was formed in Washington, D.C. in 1949 by 12 countries. The founding member was Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, the UK, and the US. NATO primary purpose was to block expansion in Europe by the Soviet Union, a group of communist republic domains by Russia which was dissolved in 1991. The Allies does not have its own army, but member states can take collective military action in response to international crises. For instance, NATO support by UN by intervening in the war of the former Yugoslavia between 1992 and 2004. It all coordinated military plan and carried out joint military exercises. What are the Article 5 and 4? The Article 5 is one of NATO core principle It said that an armed attack against on more member will be considered an attack against all. And response each other member will take such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. The guarantee does not cover based in foreigner countries or territories outside the Allies, or which is why it why it did not apply during the Vietnam War and Falkland Island conflict. Trump had previously questioned NATO mutual guarantee, but speak after the June summit said, I stand with Article 5, that's why I'm here. Under Article 4, member countries can bring any issue of concern, especially related to issue to the North Atlantic Council, NATO main political discussion making body, signed NATO Charter in 1994. Article 4 have been invoked 7 times. Which country are member? NATO has NATO has 32 members across European and North America. North America, the original 12 founder plus 32 countries which have joined in 1949. After the Soviet Union collapsed, many Eastern European countries become members, including Albania, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. Finland, which has 1,340 kilometer land border with Russia, joined April 2023. Sweden became a member in March 2024, having been neutral for decades. Both applied to NATO May 2022. Shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia are not members but have asked to join. How much do members spend on defense? NATO members are currently expected to spend 2% of their national income or GDP on defense, although it is not a legally binding commitment. The US countries which are geographically close to Russia, such as Poland and Baltic states, have traditionally spent most. In 2024, the US spent $935 billion, which was 3.4% of GDP and nearly double the defense expenditure of the rest of the NATO put together. The latest estimated show 9 members failed to meet the 2% target in 2022, which spending the latest just 1.24 of GDP. The 5% target agreed to the June summit commit 3.5% of each member state's GDP, the core defense expenditure by 2035 plus up to the 1.5 on winter security infrastructure. Spain had objected to the increased target before the summit. The Belgium and Slovakian government also expenditure concern but ultimately expected the increase. Ahead of the meeting in June, the UK government said it was spending 2.6 on core defense and 1.5% on winter security measured by 2020 core defense spending is not expected to hit 3.5% until the 2035 deadline. It has not confirmed how it will fund the additional spending. Why is Ukraine not a member? Ukraine prospected for joining the alliance have been clouded by its ongoing war with Russia. Russia has consistently opposed the idea of Ukraine of becoming member, featuring it would bring NATO force too close to its border. In 2008, the alliance said the Ukraine could eventually join, and after Russia 2024 invasion, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky asked for the process to be fast-tracked. The NATO chief at the time, Jens Stoltenberg, said Ukraine could join the long term but not until after the war had ended. However, speaking at a defense summit in Brussels in February 2025, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said the US does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome for a negotiated settlement. Some NATO defense chiefs pushed back against the commitment. Zelensky later said he was prepared to give up his presidency if it was meant Ukraine join the NATO. If they achieve peace, you really need me to give up my post. I'm ready, he told a reporter. I can trade with for NATO membership. The alliance previously described Russian invasion of Ukraine as the most significant and direct threat to allied security. It has not sent troops to Ukraine or established a no-fly zone over the country for being provoked into a direct conflict with Russia, nuclear superpower. However, individual member states have supplied arms and equipment. According to the German research organization, the Kia Insight, the US spent €64.6 billion on total military support between February 2024 to 2025. Over the same period, UA member state plus the UK, Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland have previously worth of $79.8 billion euros. It was not clear what the security guarantee for Ukraine promise after the White House meeting will take and how closely it might mirror to protect NATO member offer each other. Trump added 1,000 fee for skilled worker visa application. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that will be added on one 1 million annual fee for application on the H1B visa program for a skilled program worker. The Trump ordinance mention abuse of the program and will restrict entry unless payment is made. Critics have long agreed that BH1S undercut the American workforce, while support including billionaire Elon Musk agreed to allow the US to attack top talent from under the world. Okay, thank you guys. Stay tuned in next video.